How to find depth of foundation? What are the factors affecting on depth of foundation? How do we determine depth of foundation? What is the criteria to determine the minimum depth of foundation? Ranking formula. All those will be discussed today. I am Prasad from Structural Guide. You are welcome to the Structural Guide YouTube channel. Please subscribe our YouTube channel. You may get the notification on new videos. Let's start. Factors affecting foundation depth. There are many factors. Out of those, I have listed some of the very important factors. Foundation shall be placed on a soil having required bearing capacity. So the soil you place the foundation should have adequate bearing capacity to bear that load. Otherwise, the foundation will be failed. That is, if the structural failure won't be there if the structure is designed properly, but the soil may fail. If the soil is failed, the foundation will be settled. The excessive settlement will be there. Therefore, you have to make sure the soil you place the foundation have adequate bearing capacity. Foundation shall be constructed on soil that is not leading to excessive settlement. The first thing we discussed, the soil should have adequate bearing capacity. In addition, there are some other factors we have to consider. Now, at the top of the soil, there may be a good soil, like gravel or very hard soil, may be there at the top. But when you go into the deeper levels, there may be a weak soil. There may be clay soil, there may be compressible soils, like peat, may be there. So those type of soils also need to consider when you determining the foundation capacity or the foundation geotechnical capacity and whether to put the foundation or what's the depth should be selected for that particular foundation. This is basically come from the geotechnical investigation. If you done a geotechnical investigation, you can obtain those data through the borehole. So borehole clearly indicate type of soil available under the ground. So based on that, you may get the recommendation. You may follow that. In addition, you should have knowledge to see whether these recommendations are correct or wrong. With that, you can determine the foundation depth and many other like whether we can go with the shallow foundation or whether we require deep foundation. All those can be determined from that. Foundation shall not be constructed on loose or disturbed soil. So if you are going to have a shallow foundation, there you may find the loose soil or you may find the disturbed soil during the excavation. Those soil should be avoided because if you have a disturbed soil, the when the loads are applied, foundation may settle. Therefore, that has to be considered during the construction. Groundwater table. Groundwater table is very important in the shallow foundation construction because it affects the soil bearing capacity. In addition, it affects the cost of the construction also. Now, if the groundwater level is at lower level or very close to the ground, then we have issues because when you excavate for the foundation, you may find the water. You have to do the dewatering and many more things will be there. So cost will be increased. If you can construct the foundation just above the groundwater, these issues may be less. In addition, there may be durability issues also with the presence of the groundwater table. Therefore, those things we have to consider. Soil shall be free from the organic matters. Now, when you determine the depth of the foundations, you may find the minimum depth, but you have to consider the ground condition at site. There may be trees, there may be vegetation, different organic matters may be there in the soil. You should avoid those. Depth should be determined beyond that soil layers because if you have roots under the foundations, with the time they may deteriorate. So with the deterioration, cavities will be created under the foundations. If you have a significant amount of roots, there will be a big issue. The foundation may settle due to this deterioration. Therefore, you have to consider the ground condition very carefully during the construction. Even though it's design determined, you have to go with 3 feet or 1 meter, whatever. Even design or the drawing specify that at site you have to check or you have to make sure those conditions are meet. The actual condition should not may not be reflected in the design documents. Therefore, the site engineer must be aware about these facts when you're doing the construction of footings. Let's see how to calculate the minimum depth of foundation. Previously, we discussed the factors affecting the foundation depth, factors to be considered. Here we are going to discuss about the method of determining the minimum depth of foundation. Ranking formula is used in this purpose. D equals P over gamma into 1 minus sine theta, 1 plus sine theta square root. So this is the ranking formula used to determine the depth of foundation. D is the minimum depth of foundation in meters. P is the applied pressure or the allowable bearing capacity of soil. Whatever the less you may use for the calculating the minimum depth. Density of the soil. It's kilonewtons per meter cube. Theta is angle of reforce. What's this theta? I think you know other parameters. What is angle of reforce? Its definition like the steepest angle at which a sloping surface formed from a loosened material is stable. When you place loose material in the ground or whatever the place, steeper slopes it gets stable. You have to find. For example, when you put sand in from top, it's create a cone-like shape. The steepest angle that sand creates is the its angle of repose. So with that, we can, if you have these parameters, we can calculate the minimum depth of foundation from the ranking formula. Let's see how to calculate this. The parameters I have considered here are the allowable bearing capacity, density and angle of reforce. Allowable bearing capacity say 150. So if we can consider that you are designed for the allowable bearing capacity, then foundations will be applied this pressure. If you have a lesser pressure than the allowable bearing, say for example, you say you have a allowable bearing capacity of 150 and your pressure is 100. So you can consider 100 when you determine the minimum depth. With that, you have to consider the other factors I have discussed previously also when determining the availability roots in the trees, likewise other parameters also you have to consider. Say we are designed for the allowable bearing capacity and the applied pressure is equal to allowable bearing capacity, then we consider 150. Density of soil 18 kilonewtons per meter cube. Angle reforce assume here in this case 30. That particular soil we can say it's 30. Then we can substitute this value into this equation. So we can calculate the depth then. It came as a 0.926 meters. That is nearly 3 feet or 900 millimeter. So this particular soil, the depth of foundation is 3 feet or 900 millimeter. This applied load, applied pressure could be go up to 3 story or 4 story. Depending on the grid, you may decide the pressure because column load is the factor that determines the pressure. So you have the foundation footing. So you know the area of the footing. So you once you determine the area of footing based on this value, so you know the applied pressure. So depending on the pressure, you can determine the depth. So if the applied pressure in this range in a foundation, you can keep the depth as 3 feet or 900 millimeter. That's why generally it says you have to excavate at least 3 feet or 900 millimeter when you're doing the construction of foundations. That is used as a general norm. You might have heard you have to excavate 3 feet. You might have heard you have to excavate 900 millimeter for the foundations as a general norm. This is come from this equation. You can see here 900 is came from this equation. So the allowable bearing capacity or the applied pressure in the range of 150, you may at least go for 3 feet excavation for the foundations. With that, we end today's discussion. Today we discuss about how to find the depth of foundation, what are the factors to be considered in determining the foundation depth, and how to determine the minimum depth of foundation. Let's meet again for a new video. Thank you very much.